Jason McNew of Appalachian Technologies here, and this is Security Snark, where we discuss all the cybersecurity news that's worth discussing. This week, coming from the record, 100% of Argentinian citizens' PII is now compromised, 100%. Person identifying information. Iran's ABTs are making the news again, coming from cyware.com, and coming from Bleeping Computer. Security advisory has been issued for a very, very popular computer tablet, which is of course made in China, and ransomware. Coming from yahoo.com, ransomware hits the second largest TV station operator in the United States. So this is peachy. This is coming from the record.media. Hacker steals government ID database for Argentina's entire population. Argentina's population is a little less than 46 million people. So this is the entire nation's identifications were ripped off. And evidently they have something called RENAPR, which translates into the National Registry of Persons, which was compromised, and then some of the data leaks were put on Twitter. And this actually includes some soccer stars and the national president and everybody, the entire nation. So this is a massive problem. The only way to really fix this would be with blockchain. But in the United States, politically, that would be difficult, if not impossible. I'm not exactly sure if that would work in Argentina. But in any case, the entire population's we tell people all the time that networks fall into two categories, those that have been breached and those that are going to get breached. And I think the same is true of your identity. It's best to just assume that your identity's been stolen or is going to get stolen and then act accordingly. And I've written about that in my blog in the past about ways to protect your personal identity and that sort of thing. Personally, I'm a veteran who used to have a security clearance, and my data was ripped off during the Office of Personnel Management breach. So your ID is not secure. It's just like your credit card. It's going to get ripped off, so act accordingly. And this piece coming from cyware.com, U.S. and Israeli defense tech firms targeted by Iranian actors. They're running password spray attacks against Microsoft Office users, and password spray attacks basically you're bombarding an account with thousands and thousands of passwords coming from different IP addresses over Tor, which is the onion router or the dark web. And in this particular case, Iran is attempting to exfiltrate defense information. And these are defense firms supporting the United States, European, and Israeli government manufacturing military-style grade radars. And this is an advanced, persistent threat, an APT type attack, and it's a mistake to underestimate Iran. They have some pretty good capabilities. In particular, a couple of years ago, there was the DigiNotar thing. They managed to compromise one of the certificate authorities, and then were able to forge certificates, and that's impressive. Not that I want to admire them necessarily, but you have to appreciate your adversary where it's necessary. Next up is this piece from bleepingcomputer.com. Microsoft issues advisory for Surface Pro TPM bypass vulnerability. And a TPM is a trusted platform module, and it's a hardware chip that is on the motherboard of a device that performs various security services like allowing full disk encryption to happen, secure boot, and those kinds of things. And in an advanced environment, TPM is something that, this one kind of reminds me of, if you remember, the WPA2 implementation flaw that came out 2 or 3 years ago. This one is a pretty big deal, and it's kind of a surprise. And Microsoft says that this could also affect some other vendors that are having that have similar architecture with their TPM chips. The attack itself is this is pretty highly advanced stuff, and this is something you would see coming from an advanced persistent threat that was maybe trying to get into Lockheed Martin or something like that. But still, the fact that something like this particular flaw existed, and it says that these tablets were built between 2016 and 2019, I believe. So this flaw has been around for a while, but it's only recently been disclosed, which leads me to wonder, these tablets were made from 2014 and then discontinued in November 2016. And this leads me to wonder, has anybody else discovered this flaw before it's been disclosed to the public? And more importantly, we all know where this stuff is made. It's all made in China. China is not our friend. We know that they have done hardware level attacks. You may remember the Trend Micro problem from a couple of years ago, and they're a big motherboard manufacturer, and there was some serious problems with that. One way to mitigate some of this, if you look at the NSA's, the National Security Agency's approved hardware list and approved product list, which is publicly available, those products have been vetted by the NSA and should be more secure than some of the other stuff. So in highly secure environments, when it comes to recommending, I tend to be vendor agnostic, but I would generally recommend things from the NSA's approved product list. But this one is interesting. It's a big deal. We'll be keeping our eye on this one to see how this evolves for mitigation in particular. And finally comes this piece from Yahoo News. Sinclair Broadcast Group says it has been hit by a ransomware attack. More ransomware. Typically, the motive for ransomware is money, but not always. Sometimes ransomware attacks are used to disguise other types of things that are going on, whether it's exfiltration or just gaining toeholds or whatever. So I always try to keep my antennas up a little bit on this stuff. But anyway, Sinclair Broadcast Group evidently is the second largest TV station operator in the United States, and they suffered a ransomware attack. And it says this one doesn't look like it was huge, but it locked up some servers, workstations, and networks, and evidently it affected broadcasting for local TV stations. And the company also says that the attacker stole some data from its network, but they don't know what it is yet. So yet another ransomware attack. But what's interesting here is that Sinclair Broadcasting Group is absolutely enormous. And I don't know that much about them internally, but they're large enough that they should have a mature cybersecurity capability. But it doesn't matter if you're a big target, you're a small target, you're a hard target, you're a soft target, everything's a target, including Sinclair Broadcast Group, and including everything else, once again.